Hey everyone, welcome. If this is your first time here, welcome back if you're rejoining. This video is 5 ways to rewire your brain to heal from trauma. This is self-healing practices for Black women healing from trauma. And I'll talk more about the term self-healing because that term really changed my life. But I do want to check in and see how everyone is doing. If you're here live, let us know in the chat so we can say hello. Right, there's a lot going on at the moment. A lot of traumatic things, right, happening that we're seeing. So I feel like this video is right on time. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Marissa Price. I'm a Black woman social worker, freelance coach. And this space is a safe space for Black women to process what we've been through, heal from trauma, right, past, current trauma, and really be able to provide that space for us to reflect back to each other how incredible we are, right? Because we don't see that enough in the world that we live in. So yes, if you're here, please let us know in the chat. I see Lydia. Hey, always good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Yes. Hope, hello. Thank you for joining as well. Yes. Yeah, so this topic is something I've been sitting with for a few months now. Hey, Marissa. Good to see you here. Yes, I'll be speaking to Marissa later today. We have a collab coming up, which I'm excited about. But yeah, I've been thinking about this topic, right? How we rewire our brain to heal from trauma, right? And I do want to say, like, the field of mental health, right? Traditionally, Black people have been left out of mental health spaces, right? Which is important to say as a social worker in mental health spaces. We have been left out. And part of that is because, right, we've been dehumanized throughout history. Like, we haven't even, like, the narrative is that we don't even have human brains sometimes, right? So this is really needed to be able to say, this is the ways our brain functions because we have human brains. And that sounds kind of like wild and out there, but it's true, right? The ways that we have been traditionally regarded in a lot of these spaces, a lot of these oppressive environments is inferior, is less than human often, right? So it's important to remind yourself that we have human brains and we have all the pieces that function together, and we can also heal from trauma, right? So just to put that out there to start with, that's the viewpoint I'm coming from, right? So neuroplasticity. Hey, Leslie, good to see you. Good morning. Yes, how is everyone? Let us know. Yesterday was hard for me. It was hard. And let me know if you've had to take a break from, like, the media cycle, because it's been a lot, y'all. And Dr. Kamani did a video on her channel, Lifting as We Climb Consulting, that I just watched, about the emotional roller coaster, right? And you have to take yourself off of this roller coaster that a lot of people want us on. They want us to go up and down, right? Not really be grounded in anything. And that's why it's so important to root into yourself, right? And the things that you know to be true and the things that you have control over, when everything is, like, up and down all the time, because it can be exhausting. Yeah. Hey, Sade. Thank you for joining. Always good to see you here. Lavendula, good morning. Yes, afternoon. Always good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Yeah. So yes, we are able to rewire our brains, right? Just want to start there. Just because we have experienced traumatic events, circumstances, sometimes over a long period of time, doesn't mean all is lost. As long as you're living, you have the ability to literally create new neural pathways in your brain, which is why this field is so important, right? Something I've been really reading about, studying different ways that we can build these new neural pathways. And as I'm going to talk about, a lot of these things maybe you might already be doing, right? You may not even recognize it. But over time, as you make these things a practice in your life, you'll notice you'll start to change, right? You'll start to become the person that you envision yourself to be. And so trauma doesn't have to be a limitation, right? It's something that never should have happened, these traumatic experiences, but those experiences don't have to limit the way we live our lives in the future, our dreams, right? The things that we want to pursue. And so there are different ways to rewire those neural pathways so that they serve you. And also realizing that you have control, right? Which is why self-healing is so important. Hey, Nate, always good to see you here. And thank you for that. Yeah, praying for y'all ladies. We will survive and grow together. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, thank you for that. Yeah. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. Yeah. So let me know how y'all are doing. Yeah. Yeah. Lesson says yesterday was really hard. I have not been feeling well. In fact, I was downright sick, and then yesterday was just too much. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's a lot. It is stress on top of stress on top of stress, right? And we're seeing, I mean, if you've read throughout history, right, there are patterns that history kind of goes in. And so we see some of those patterns at play again. And it's just trying to not lean into the fear because it's a lot of fear out there. And they want us to be in that space again, so we can be on their roller coaster that they control up and down. And so it's really like taking a hold of things that you can root yourself in, right? In realizing and understanding that these things are meant to cause anxiety. So if you're anxious, if you're fearful, there's a reason for that, right? And not gaslighting yourself if that's the pattern that you're going down. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, Jasmine, thank you for joining. Yes. Hey, good to see you here, Lady Ebony Rose. Yeah. Yeah, welcome, y'all. Thank you. So it's a lot. It's a lot, right? And I do want to say, like, some of these traumatic experiences, especially now, like those wounds can be reopened, right? Depending on what you've experienced, seeing people be outright hostile towards a lot of the things that we've encountered throughout our lives, right? Especially talking about intersectionality as Black women, how our identities sit at the intersections and all of the things that we experience throughout our lives. And then seeing policies, people talk about things, kind of reopen some of those wounds. So if that's the case for you, know that you're not alone, right? A lot of us are experiencing these things too. And it's not right. It's not right. And so we have to, I think being in community is going to be essential. I've been seeing that a lot of places. Being in safe community, which is one of the things I'm going to be talking about, because there's a difference between community and safe community. Do you feel okay to share what you're going through? Is there space for vulnerability, or is someone going to make the wound a little bit deeper, right? Because unfortunately, there are communities like that out there, as we see. Hey, Daniela Elevates, good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Yep. Okay. And so if you are coming in the chat with any type of antagonistic comments today is not the day, right? I'm going to tell you right now, and you will be blocked. So I just want to put that out there. This is also why there was such a push to move away from humanities. Yeah, as humanities was not seen as good jobs. That part. This neglect of humanities has led to misinformation, thus leaving us doomed to repeat. Yeah. They knew moving away from humanities would leave the door open for easier brainwashing. Nate, this is so important. This is so important. Yes, 100%. 100%. Yeah, and we see this over time, right? There's been a lead up to this. It didn't come out of nowhere. And we've seen patterns throughout history. Again, history repeats itself. So I think that's like the reason a lot of us are rightfully so fearful about what's to come, because we see it happening again. We've seen what has happened to our ancestors right throughout history. Yeah, it is a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form and reorganize synaptic connections, especially in response to learning or experience or following injury, right? So this is a study of neuroplasticity, basically saying that you have the ability to rewire your brain. All is not lost if you've experienced a traumatic event, a traumatic experience, maybe over a long period of time. And this is complex PTSD. When you've experienced that traumatic event, it wasn't just one time, right? But it was over a long time. Maybe you couldn't leave that environment. And I talk a lot about childhood bullying. A lot of us experience complex PTSD as children if you were bullied. because we couldn't leave these environments, right? School is mandatory. And so if you are traumatized, harmed on a daily basis, right, what does that do to your brain? There are real changes that occur, right, that lead to a lot of the things that we experience in adulthood. We have to go back and see what happened to us as children, where the majority of our brain development has occurred, right? This is really the key to a lot of the things to understand. Yeah. Lesson says it certainly has. It has put us in a vulnerable place because we were not as versatile, not only in learning, but also in behavior. It took the impasse out of the mix and screwed everything up. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It took the impasse out of the mix and screwed everything up. Wow. I gotta sit with that one. That's true. Ooh. That's true. Yeah, and this focus on hard science, right? Science, technology, engineering, math, STEM fields. Especially me, like being kind of guided into business, right? Finance. Again, this is like a hard field, and I excelled in this field. I know a lot of us have this experience, but there is always something that this isn't right, right? This isn't aligned because of the emphasis, right? That you have to go into this to be successful, to get all of these things that we're told that we have to have. And our souls are really dying in a lot of these industries because it's not who we are. So thank you for that, Leslie. Yeah, impasse. Yes. It took the impasse out of the mix and screwed everything up. Yes. Yes. Yeah, thank you for that. Hey, Alicia. Good to see you. Yes. Happy Tuesday. Yeah. 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 Yeah, you are missed. You are. Yeah. Yes, cognitive behavioral therapy. I do want to say this too. So, this is a type of therapy I've been looking more into, right? So, it's a type of psychotherapy in which negative patterns of thought about the self and the world are challenged in order to alter unwanted behavior patterns or treat mood disorders such as depression. So, this is a type of therapy, right? Rewiring your brain is a type of therapy that is done. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy in therapeutic settings. And this is the process of creating new neural pathways, which is what I'm be talking about today. And I do want to mention a book recommendation, The Sugar Jar, if y'all can see it, by Yasmin Cheyenne. So this is Create Boundaries, Embrace Self-Healing, and Enjoy the Sweet Things in Life. And I'll put it in the chat too. But yeah, this book was life-changing for me. It introduced me to the term self-healing, which is extremely important if you don't have access to therapy, because we know in the US especially, therapy is not accessible, right? And there are different resources that I'll list in the description after this video too, that help offset the cost of therapy. But we know there are so many different barriers on purpose to therapy. And so we need something in the meantime, like self-healing practices. Even if you can't see your therapist and something may flare up, right? To be able to return to. So self-healing is really what I'm going to be leaning into in 2025, sharing more ways that we can heal ourselves, right? Understanding that therapy is essential. It is important, but you need something in between, even if you're in therapy, ways to work through the emotions that come up, right? I think that's really important. Yeah, so I'll put this in the chat. The Sugar Jar by Yasmin Cheyenne. Highly recommend this book. If you're looking to create boundaries, start the process of self-healing, learn different tips for how to work through difficult emotions, trauma that you might have been through, highly recommend this book. It's life-changing. Yes. Yeah, Nate says, it's so funny you just mentioned this, Marissa. I just bought a book for cognitive therapy, Feeling Good. Oh, wow. Feeling Good, the new mood therapy book by David Burns. I haven't heard of that. Thank you for that. Okay. Feeling Good, the new mood therapy book. I love that. Yeah. Oh, it's not specifically. Oh, no. In a Black woman's perspective, your suggestion is probably better. No worries. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I got the sugar jar on Audible. Oh, yay. We'll listen to it tonight. Today I'm writing because, man, I need it. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. Mm-hmm. I feel that. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. That's a great question. Does self-healing also look at food and supplements or only emotional healing? This book is only emotional healing. But wow, thank you for that question. Food and supplements, that's part of it. It's like it's holistic, right? And I talked about, I had a conversation with your dream strategist, Rashidat, for an interview coming up. But that was one of the things we talked about, the limitations of Western medicine, that it treats everything as if it's just this one thing, right? It's very siloed when we're a whole person. So if one thing is off, it's going to affect everything else. So food and supplements, yeah, is definitely part of self-healing, I would say. Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And I do have a resource for you that I'll put up here. I did create a workbook. So if you're looking to process things like childhood trauma, I created a fillable workbook, 5 steps to begin healing from childhood trauma, that you can purchase at this link. Trying to get better at self-promotion as an entrepreneur. Yes. Yeah. Getting back to my notes. Yeah, so trauma can disrupt the brain's wiring in areas like the amygdala, which is emotional processing, and the prefrontal cortex, which is where decision making happens in the brain. Right? So neuroplasticity means that our brains are capable of rewiring and healing through intentional practices. Again, so all is not lost. If you've experienced trauma over a long period of time, all is not lost, right? As long as you're living, you have the ability to rewire your brain to build new neural pathways that actually serve you. And part of that is really self-awareness, which I'm going to be talking about too, right? That's really the first step, to understand how these things may be impacting you, which is what my workbook walks you through. Yeah. Oh, thank you. You're doing great, Marissa. Such beautiful healing work. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for this. Thank you. Yeah. Nate says, in my own experience, I would say food is a huge aspect. As the gut, yes, that's important. Yes, as the gut is seen as a second brain. So changing my diet is partly what lifted a lot of negativity from my thinking patterns. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. I just heard someone say that too. Yeah. It's Charisma. Charisma Cares on YouTube. Yeah, she was talking about how like the gut health impacts our entire body, especially our mental health. And so all these things are interconnected, which again is a limitation of Western medicine, viewing everything as siloed. This part, you can treat this part. We're a whole person. We're a whole person. Yeah. Can you please list your website on here? I can. Thank you, Leslie. Yes, so this is my website. Recently relaunched. Thank you to Quinn Edwards, who designed my new website. But if you're interested in coaching offerings, webinars, I do have free and paid resources on my website if you'd like to check it out. But yeah. Gut as a second brain. It's true. Yeah, that's so funny. I just heard her say that too. Charisma Cares. Yes. Yeah. Cutting off high fructose, interesting. Corn syrup, alcohol, soda, and candy did a lot for me. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of, like I said, the body is a whole thing, right? It can't just be cut off into parts. And I think that's important to bring awareness to, like, if I cut this off, how does it make me feel? Really like self-awareness to begin like implementing those changes in your life that makes you feel the best that you can feel. That's important. Hey, Sweet Tooth Marie, thank you for joining. Yeah, Marissa, my goal this year is emotional well-being. I've started with brain dumping. Ooh, every day for 5 minutes. This helps me sleep at night and release body tension. Is there anything else you recommend? Ooh, I think that's a great start. Brain dumping every day for 5 minutes. Yeah, that's so important, right? Especially for those of us who are chronic overthinkers. Just being able to put everything in a list or in a journal, just giving yourself the freedom to just write whatever comes up. That's important. Yeah. And not judging yourself for anything that comes down. It's just, yeah, getting out on paper. This helps me sleep at night and release body tension. Anything else you recommend? I'm going to go through 5 things that may be helpful today. But this is great. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah, brain dumping. Thank you. Yeah. 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 Lesson says very true. If your gut is healthy, remove some of the fog because you can absorb nutrients better and grow. I'm learning so much. Thank you. That's true. That's very true. Yeah, because I'm just thinking about in college, I had really severe stomach issues. I had to have an endoscopy at one point because of the stress from school, right? And just thinking how that impacted my entire body being. That's, yeah. Thank y'all. Yeah. Yeah, when I was first diagnosed with IBS, this was the first time I heard about the gut being the second brain. Yeah, it makes so much sense. I get sick when I was stressed. Yeah. Yeah. So many things live in the gut, which I'm just now learning right at this age. It's like that would have been helpful information before, but here we are. Yeah, and how it impacts the whole body. Yeah. Yeah. The exciting thing about the human experience being holistic is a positive change. Thank you for that. A positive change in one area positively impacts all areas. Marissa, thank you. That's true. That's true. Yeah. So if you pull one lever and it's a positive change, that's impacting your entire body. So in the same way, like the negative can also be viewed in the positive. Yes. That's true. That's true. Yep. Okay. Yes. 5 ways to rewire your brain. Get back to my notes. Mindfulness can be helpful. So I'm going to put this up on the screen. So it can put you back into a parasympathetic nervous system. So there are 2 parts to your nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, which is the trauma responses often, and parasympathetic nervous system, which is your nervous system when it's calm, at peace, when your breath is normal, right? Your heart rate is normal. This is very important. So becoming aware of how you're operating day to day, right? Are you stressed when you enter certain environments, when you interact with certain people? And how can you take yourself out of those environments if possible, or put in barriers, potentially gray rocking, which is a term in narcissistic abuse, cutting off people who are toxic in that way. If you can't leave the environment, preserving yourself at all cost can be a way to do that, right? And rewiring your brain, right? This is a way to emotionally regulate yourself. becoming aware of how your emotional responses are happening in different environments, and actively choosing to either leave or handle it in a different way, right? You're telling your brain, it doesn't have to like follow the same pattern that we've been in this whole time. I can actually take a new route. I don't have to tell this person everything if they've proven to me over and over again that they're not safe, right? Now I can hold things to myself and just see how that impacts you, right? This is important too, to be able to be like before and after, to observe yourself. How is your body feeling, right? Body scans can be helpful as well. Mindfulness practices. Breathing. So I know for me, the first thing that goes when I'm stressed is my breath. I'll find myself holding my breath. So if you can even become aware that you are holding your breath, if you're stressed too, and substituting that in for deep breaths, really like taking a bird's eye view of the things that are happening in your environment, the things that you're experiencing, and knowing that you have the power to substitute whatever behavior you've been doing, because you've established a pattern, a neural pathway in your brain, but you can establish a new one anytime you want to. So in this situation, this environment, I know that I stopped breathing. So next time I'm going to take intentionally 3 deep breaths and see how that improves my mood, my ability to handle the situation, to view it more at a distance versus it feeling like life or death, which can be a trauma response, right? So leaning into mindfulness, breathing, body scans, understanding how you're responding emotionally to certain circumstances. This can be a way to rewire your brain. Yeah. And let me know mindfulness practices that y'all have. I would love to hear. Have you done deep breathing? Body scans? I know there's a tool. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is something I'll use sometimes. So 5 things that you see, 4 things that you, is it touch, smell? It's the 5 senses, but you count down essentially, and that brings you back to a grounded version of yourself versus feeling like you're just floating, which anxiety can really make us feel like we're just floating in air without being rooted in the present moment. So anything that you can do to bring yourself back to the present, how you're feeling in the present moment, and know that you have the ability to pivot, right? By rewiring your brain, by creating new neural pathways to tell your brain, when I'm in this environment, I don't want to react this way anymore, right? I'm going to go a different route. And so you're literally creating new synapses in your brain by doing that, by practicing mindfulness, by becoming aware of how you're reacting in certain situations, how your body's responding, versus just going down the pathway that's been ingrained in your brain over time, knowing that you have the ability to take a new route. Oh, interesting. Okay. And once I started taking magnesium, but don't know that word, and vitamin D3 consistently, I've been much more aligned and made spiritual progress, day-to-day navigation much easier. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so mindfulness practices, which can be so essential, especially during these times. Anything that you use to bring yourself back to the present, please share with us. Please share with us. Mindfulness for me looks like writing, going outside, sitting in the sun. It's usually like the simple things that we tend to overlook that bring us back to the present, that we see other living things doing. And as human beings, we can kind of get caught up in our minds, right? And oppression really likes us to be in our minds all the time versus in our bodies. So the more that you can come back into your body through breathing, body scans, right? Being aware of how you're feeling day to day instead of just being A to B to C, right? Task after task after task, which is a lot of these work environments keep us in that mode intentionally. So how can you bring yourself out of that and into the present moment? Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love giving myself a hug to come back into my body. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Donna. Yeah, mindfulness practice is taking my time eating, chewing, smelling, and tasting food. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Ooh, and that just brings me back to like school, right? Being rushed to finish your food in like, it felt like 15 minutes. I think it might have been sometimes 15, 30 minutes, right? This rush that we were constantly under to, with the bell, right? And those of us who are like highly sensitive, it's like that bell would just be like torture to me sometimes. The lunch bell, but we're on this track to be in the workforce. It's training us to be in the workforce from such an early age. And we don't have time to really sit with what we're doing, right? Eating, chewing, smelling, tasting food, like you said, Donna. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. It says, I'm glad you mentioned mindfulness. This has been the main part of my spiritual practices lately. I've been brushing up on, but mine has been more so only incorporated in samadhi, meditation, not moving. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, mindfulness can be so helpful. Yeah. Singing or dancing along with one of my favorite songs. I love that. Yeah. And mindfulness practice can be hugging myself for a moment. Okay, are we all? Yes. I love that. I love that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like embracing yourself as a child, right? The child version of yourself. How can you comfort that version? Whenever you're experiencing like an emotional response to an environment, a person, it's like, is this person like perhaps triggering a childhood wound? And having so much like gentleness for yourself, giving yourself a hug, like y'all have said. Yeah. Yeah. Donna, no, I thought that was being too much. It is 15 minutes. How are you supposed to eat a meal in 15 minutes? Thank you. Okay, wow, that's. And from the time we are 5 years old, right, maybe before that, we are on this artificial time clock throughout the day. And so, even tapping into how you feel versus just going with A to B to C, right? The task, being a robot, which is how we're often socialized, it can feel like impossible to bring yourself out of that because it's been so deeply ingrained. Like you said, 15 minutes to eat. And then we're supposed to know how to take our time doing these things. You're having to create brand new neural pathways because this has never been something that we've been taught how to do, right? Yes. Mindfulness, turning the lights off in the bathroom and soaking in the salt bath. Oh, I love that. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Epsom salt baths are everything. Yes. Nature. Nature. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another mindfulness practice I really enjoy is questioning everything as if I were a child or an alien. I do that too. Hmm. Does it have to be that way? Who says it's fun and helps me calm down and see new options? Yes. Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I often, yeah, I pretend like I'm an alien. zooming out from Earth and kind of like observing how everything is going. So then I could see the absurdity of things very clearly. Like, does it have to be that way? Who says? Absolutely. Yeah. And even observing. Yeah, observing everything. Like you said, as a child. Right. And these things we often, like you'll see children often question them. Like, why did we do this way? And then sometimes there's an adult who's triggered by that, their own insecurity. And so they like suppress that ability to question within children. But that's like the energy you can tap into, again, to create these new neural pathways that you can go down versus being in a set way that you've done things over time, knowing that you have the ability to pivot. Absolutely, yeah. In the visualization, which I'll be sharing about too, as a way to rewire your brain, going down, like viewing it as like a fork in the road. So you know the path that you've been down before. You've been down this path many times. You know that, for instance, if you overwork, you know the physical symptoms that will appear. You know it. You've seen it. What if you went the other way and actually took a break and actually stopped working, gave yourself permission to rest? What could be down that pathway versus the one that you always take? This has been a helpful visualization for me too. Yeah. Leslie says, it takes me 15 minutes to settle down to eat. And then how do I enjoy it? I love food. That's why I'm always late. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. To even settle down, right? To get. But no, it's 15 minutes to eat as a child. And we know that, right? Children have a lot of energy, right? So even like getting yourself into that point to be able to digest, that's not enough time to digest. And then you're back in class, expected to sit there and say nothing, which is how Western schools often operate, right? Just sit there and take in instruction from someone. Don't question it. Don't get up. Even at 5, 6, 7 years old, there's so many things wrong. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. Me, my mindfulness is recognizing when I'm trying to plan for the future. Yep. I recognize the thought, accept it, appreciate it for trying to help me, but telling it it's all right now is okay. Yes, I love that. There's another therapeutic practice, acceptance and commitment therapy. I think it's ACT. But that reminds me of that, right? Kind of observing your thought patterns, accepting them, letting them float away. Right? This is a thought that I typically have. I see it, I'm letting it float away, like I'm accepting the situation, but I'm also recognizing that I don't have to go down that pathway anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Planning for the future is my number one obstacle to mindfulness. Ooh, that's real. Right? How many of us catastrophize? Don't look over here. But yes, catastrophizing is real. Trying to see into the future. I just had to tell myself that the other day. I cannot predict the future. I can only plan for now. For today, this is the only thing that you have control over. And just taking the first step versus thinking that you have to have the roadmap for 10 steps ahead. You don't have the information for step 10 yet. You just have information for step 1, and that's all you need to take at the time. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Yes. Now is okay. I love that affirmation. Now is okay. Yeah. And even knowing that you can be the person that you needed all along. Now you can become that person, right? By affirming to yourself, it's going to be okay. Versus if you had someone who was really harsh with you, right? Who gave you something that was actually harmful, the opposite of affirmation. Now you can be the one to remove those thoughts, literally like deleting your mind, which is creating new neural pathways, um, and creating your own inner voice, your own inner monologue that is actually positive, affirming, understanding the person that you needed that maybe you didn't have all these years. You can become that person. That's been helpful for me. Yeah, Leslie says, I'm so grateful that I went to school in the Caribbean. I had 45-minute lunches and then art afterwards. Wow. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I was just talking with Marissa about art because my art teachers had such a huge impact on my life. And we see, like, even now with things like art programs being rolled back, right? Intentionally, because art opens your imagination to different things. And one thing oppressors do not want is us having access to our imaginations. They want us to live on such a low, like, frequency that we accept anything that they tell us, even about ourselves. So I love that you had art. Yes. Too much violence out there and it starts in childhood. Yeah. Ooh. Mm-hmm. This is deep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because these patterns of behavior that we just do as adults without even really recognizing it, go back to childhood and see where that pattern started. That's really where the answers are, right? To the things that we're experiencing. Sometimes the emotional responses, right? Yeah. The violent behavior. Mm-hmm. And the suppressive society reinforces how we interact with each other as a tool of control, right? It likes us to be violent with each other. And that's really the sadistic part. Mm-hmm. Deep breathing helps. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If we can rest, we get time to dream. If we dream, we get time to create. That's how the world changes. That's why they can't let the kids take their time. That's it. That's it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ooh, there's an assault on our dreams, right? Our ability to envision a different world, which is what art does so often. Art programs, which is why they're under attack. In the emphasis that we talked about earlier, right, on hard science, science, technology, engineering, math, versus these things that allow us to dream, envision different possibilities, right? It's like that's being cut off on purpose. Mic drop. Thank you, Marissa. Yeah. Come on, where is BTS when you need them? Oh my gosh, yes, yes. Yeah, it's deep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. If we can rest, we get time to dream, right? So thinking about why these workplaces often keep us in grind mode all the time. We don't have time to rest. In order to dream, you need time to rest. Right? And then dreaming leads to creating. Creating leads to creating a different world. What do oppressors not want? The world to be any different than it is now. It's a chain reaction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think Alicia said before, right? This is someone's dream world. This is what someone dreamed into being and reinforced it with violence. As we see now, right? This is someone's like celebration. The oppression, the subjugation of other people is someone's joy. Twisted. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Other ways to rewire your brain: journaling. So, journaling can help challenge limiting beliefs, reframe thought patterns that you've had before, maybe putting them into a different light. I think someone shared before, like putting it down on paper, all the things that are floating in your head. Yes. So, Sweet Tooth Marie. Let me pull your comment back up. Mm-hmm. Yes. Brain dumping every day for 5 minutes. Right? So just seeing what's floating around in your mind at any given moment, just taking even if it's your notes app and just putting it there. Right? And only you have to see it. But this is so important to be able to recognize the thoughts that are floating around in your mind and being able to reframe them so that they work for you. And if not, uprooting them. Yeah. And I also want to mention I do have a self-paced workshop if you're interested. Healing from Childhood Attachment Wounds, co-hosted with Angela Kanu, who's a fellow Black woman social worker. If you are healing from an anxious attachment style, an avoidant attachment style, or a disorganized attachment style, those are the 3 types of insecure attachment styles established very early on in childhood. This workshop may be helpful. It will be. It will be helpful for you. And I'll just say preparing for this workshop was healing for me, right? Sometimes as social workers, the letters behind our names, people can maybe get the perception that we're healed from the things that we're talking about. Absolutely not. I am on this journey myself. And so being able to research and compile findings with Black women centered, which were not often centered in these conversations. This workshop in particular that I hosted last January has been so pivotal to my healing journey in my efforts to rewire my own brain. So please check it out if you're interested. Healing from Childhood Attachment Wounds, a self-paced workshop co-hosted with Angela Kanu. Yeah. But let me know, do y'all journal? Or write in your notes app? This is one of the things that has been really helpful for me, just having a place to write the thoughts as they come to my mind. And if you're in a toxic environment, having something that you can refer back to if you begin to gaslight yourself, right? Writing down, I feel this way in this moment, and keeping a list for yourself so that in the moments where you start to question your reality, if this has been something that you've had to do, especially in childhood, you can refer back to your notes app, something that you wrote down, and be like, oh no, No, I didn't make that up. That actually happened. So if you are prone to self-gaslighting, journaling may be a way to stay rooted in your reality and create those new pathways in your brain that allow you to finally exit that environment or put up the necessary barriers that you need to be able to protect yourself. Yeah. Hello, thank you for joining. Yeah. hmm I journal all the time, mainly for spiritual contemplation. Yeah. It's been helping me build a curriculum. Oh, interesting. For future teaching, organizing, and healing. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Come on. If these crazy people get the dream, so do I. This is their dream. And that's kind of the energy I'm in 2025, right? If they get to say whatever they want without thinking about it, well, so do I. Right? Knowing that I'm like always going to be an introspective person before I say something, of course, but it's like the fear that used to exist, seeing how boldly some folks feel, right? To just say anything that comes to their mind. I'm like, okay, if that's what we're on, then that's what we're on in 2025. Yeah. Lesson says, I never want to grow to understand that why someone can only be happy and feel confident when someone else is hurting. I never wanted to understand that either. Yeah, that's always been kind of a foreign concept to me to even like wrap my head around, that it can bring someone like pure joy to see someone else suffer. To me, that's inhuman. That's really inhuman. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and it goes into colonization, these patterns of behavior that have been ingrained over centuries at this point, and it has impacted the entire globe, right? The way that we interact with each other, how we try to take power from each other. In lateral oppression, if y'all have heard that term, let me know. Something I'll be looking more into this year. Lateral oppression, how do we basically enact what we experience in the world out on each other, where the stakes are lower? And these cycles become repeated. So if you're experiencing oppression out in the world every day, a lot of the times you'll take it out on the people who you live with, who are in close proximity to you. And so the violence out there, right, of colonization, of enslavement, is now enacted on an interpersonal level. hmm Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Journaling is important. Yeah. I can't take full credit. Trisha Hersey helped me make that connection. We love Trisha Hersey. Yeah. If y'all have not read her latest book, The Art of Escape, I forgot the last part of it, but it's called The Art of Escape. Highly recommend. It's something like a book that I've never read anything like this before. And I just read it in the park one day. It's a quick read, but it's deep. She talks about someone who mailed himself to freedom. He put himself in a box, a journey that should have killed him. He mailed himself to the North, right, during the period of enslavement, and freed himself. And so that is a level of imagination that they don't want us to be able to access. It is. Mm-hmm. Mm. It's so sick. It really is. Yeah. This is someone's dream world. The suffering that we're experiencing, the way that we're seeing the earth be impacted by these decisions, people's, right, families, healthcare, you name it, being taken away. This brings some people joy. This is their source of joy. And so that's what we're up against. Yeah. Nate says, yep, having you stuck in survival mode. Yes, when you're too busy trying to survive, you have little space to engage in higher spiritual contemplation and creation, intentionally done while they go on vacation. That's it. Mm-hmm. Right? Intentional survival mode. You don't have time to engage in your imagination, right? Which is why it's essential that you take the time for yourself, because it's never going to be given to you in these systems. It's not. And you have to carve that out for yourself. Yeah. And you have, little space to engage in higher spiritual contemplation and creation. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so knowing it's by design, knowing it's intentional, none of this is a coincidence. None of this is just, oh, we don't have time to rest. No, this is intentional, right? With the roots in enslavement. How can you resist? Where are your points of resistance? Right? That's a question to sit with, like, even to myself, like the moments that you're able to, that you carve out for yourself, that you like coming from a power stance. How can you resist the messaging, the oppression, and literally take back that magic for yourself? That's an important question to sit with. Okay, lesson. Okay, yes. Thank you. Yeah. Lateral oppression, that's how parents have a hard time at work and come take it out on their children. That is where we see the most prevalent. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes. And shout out to the indigenous nations that I learned from in graduate school, because a lot of these terms were new to me, but these are things that people have been studying, talking about for decades, in the ways that we internalize oppression and then enact it out on each other. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Without any consequence, right? Actually being promoted in a lot of sense. Being promoted, being given, right, extra accolades, resources. Yep. You text yourself? I've never thought of that. Thank you for sharing that. Instead of journaling, I often text myself. Me and me have great talks. I love that because I email myself, but I don't text myself. Thank you. I didn't even know that was possible. Texting myself. And I think that's part of, I don't have it on my list, but rewiring your brain too. Realizing that you can be your own, whatever you need, right? Your own source of affirmation, of compassion, of inspiration. You can be that for yourself. A lot of us, and especially like intersectionality, right? Under the patriarchy, we are taught to seek these things, validation. I have a video idea from when I started seeking male validation, middle school. But before that time, right, I was really validating myself with encouragement from people around me, of course, but I had this deep sense of rooting in myself that has kind of gone away. I'm having to reclaim it now at this age, but due to living in a patriarchy, being socialized to seek male validation for everything that I did. And so, how can you get back in touch with that version of yourself that knew how to do these things at one point? Because healing is really about reclaiming what you may have lost along the way versus like trying to do or like be a new person. It's really you. You've been this person before. Thank you for that, Marissa. That, yes. I'm going to try that. I love that. Leslie says, for people like me who have brains that run faster than my head can write. Yeah. I highly recommend using the voice app. Yeah, I do that too. Yeah, record it, just speak it and let your tech transcribe it when you're ready. I love that. Yeah, voice notes. If you don't like writing, like you said, if your brain runs faster than your hand can write, voice noting can be a way to, it has the same effect. Journaling, voice noting, anything that you can do to get your thoughts out. Because sometimes that's what causes anxiety. Is there just, the thoughts are just circulating constantly. Can you put them on paper? Can you put them in your app? Again, if you have a tendency to self-gaslight, this can be proof for you to return back to that moment and affirm to yourself, I wasn't making that up. This person really said that to me. Right? And then make your decision from that point. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I record voice notes to myself and it's like I'm talking to someone else. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I've been trying that too with my voice app. It helps a lot. It does. It really does. And the voice is powerful, right? And shout out to Coach Yolanda, spiritual life coach, who helped me so much in the toxic job that I was in, right? My voice had literally become like physically, I don't want to say weaker, but like softer than my normal voices. And your voice holds so much energy. So if you are in a toxic environment where your voice has been suppressed, where you've had to hold your tongue a lot, like sometimes it can manifest physically. And so even having like a voice app where you can talk out what you're experiencing, even if to yourself, that helps to be able to restore some of that power back to your voice. Yeah. Yeah, everyone is saying such good stuff. I can't respond fast enough. These claps are for everyone in the chat inspiring me right now. Yes, thank y'all so much. This chat is everything. It is. I learned so much. And that's the wonderful thing about YouTube, right? You'll get out up here with topics And then you just learn. Right? It's like I have a list of topics, but I'm learning just like from what y'all are putting in the chat. Yeah. 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 Excited to hear you talk about lateral oppression. Lateral oppression. Coming soon. Mom's taking it on the kids. The cycle then continues on its own. That part, that's lateral oppression. Yeah. Things that you experience out in the world, a lot of times it manifests in the home. And so if we're able to understand how these things, right, function, how oppression, we literally internalize oppression in these environments that we're in, and then we take it out on other people. What if you had that understanding going forward of how it works? So that you, again, can intervene, right? I had a bad day. This is really impacting me. I'm actually going to process this. Again, self-healing practices, seeking out therapy versus taking it out on people close to me. And like the impact that that can have with community healing. Yeah. Gracias. Thank you. Okay. I'm not the only one. I email myself everything. Yes. My mother and stepfathers used to do the same thing to me. It was only at my grandparents' house that I had time to rest. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. You can be. You can be your own inspiration. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Yeah. And even like combing through the things that you've already done can be a source of inspiration for current you. So, what things has past you done? Right? What leaps of faith, what works have you completed that you can go back and revisit and be like, oh, that's inspiring this present version of me. But I felt like I had to become someone new to heal. It's really like reclaiming what you've already done. And again, a lot of us are in survival mode, so we're not able to sit with what we've done. It's just on to the next thing. Can you sit with what you've already accomplished? And let that be a source of inspiration. Absolutely. Yeah. Being rewarded for being evil. That's it. Is it possible to make this clickable? The website, I assume. Let me see. That should be clickable. Let me know. This is my website. If you're interested in healing resources, I also have things about freelancing, which I talk a lot about. Webinars that I've recorded, both free and paid, on my website. So please check out my website to access those things. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I've been receiving from my own self, my younger self, and the art she's made. Right. Me too. Me too. Yeah. Combing through everything I've already done, created, wrote, put together. That's the source of inspiration for present me. Yeah. So have you revisited what you've already done? It can be that simple, right? Sometimes healing can be this very big, opaque thing that we're told. It's really getting back to like the simplest things in life and revisiting the past versions of yourself that you've already shown yourself to be. Harsh white overhead lighting contributes. Yes. I hate artificial lighting. Yes. Harsh white overhead lighting contributes to anxiety. Poor mattress, lower sleep quality. I know this costs money, but it's worth it to me. Yeah. The lighting. The lighting in school. The fluorescent lighting. Always used to bother me. Hmm. Healing is under where it is. Yeah. Finding my voice again. Lady Ebony Rose, I love that. Yeah, me too. Hmm. Making all my lights warm orange lighting, getting a high quality, okay, matches, investing in high quality candles that mentally bring me back to the beach. Yes. That's awesome. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, I see this where it started. Okay. Interior design. Yeah. And let me tell you, 3 things have contributed to my nervous system finding more rest. Ah, okay. Yeah. Mm. Nervous system. Mm-hmm. Ooh, that brings up a lot how our nervous systems are impacted by trauma. So even when you're at rest physically, if you've experienced trauma over a long period of time, sometimes it will feel like you're running inside still, right? And that's where self-healing is really important, in addition to things like therapy, of course, but being able to become aware of where that's coming from. Like I said, a lot of these things were ingrained starting in childhood. If you were in a household that was highly stressful, highly traumatic, right, in different ways, you could be continuing like being in that environment even though you're not physically there. It could be an internalized thing that you're so accustomed to being in that now that's how you operate. Because again, that's how your brain has been wired to survive. And so, how can you now become aware of that and rewire those neural pathways that were there to protect you in that environment, but that are not serving you, current you? They're contributing to stress, anxiety, self criticism, overwhelm, fear, and really understanding that you have the power to go a different direction, no matter what happened in the past, right? Our brains are living things that can always be rewired. I think that's like the point of this whole video. Your brain is never set in what you experienced before. As long as you're living, you have the power to create new neural pathways. This is the whole study of neuroplasticity. Um, and you don't have to continue to stay in those really harmful patterns that were used to help you survive a certain situation, but they're now harming you. Yes, you are. Yes, yes. Y'all are such a resource of wisdom. Thank y'all for sharing. I agree. This chat is everything. Self healing tips, processing our experiences. Thank y'all for sharing. Seriously. Oh, the link you put in the chat. My bad. Yeah, let me see. Let me see. Trying to find it. Give me. Would you mind putting in the chat again? Sometimes this chat can be a lot trying to scroll through, but I'm trying to find the link so I can link it. Okay. Yeah, so another step 3, or another way. Put it up here. Seeking joy. Seeking joy can be another way to rewire your brain. So healing doesn't have to be hard. Gotta write that down. Healing doesn't have to be hard. Healing can be something that brings you joy, that brings you back to the previous versions of yourself when you had the joy, when you were in the experience, right, where you felt like your most authentic self. It can be a process of recovering those versions of yourself because they're still within you. Right? So can you create joy-filled experiences to heal potential trauma responses? This is something I've been doing. So in the moments where you're typically, let's see, how can I use one? Freeze, the freeze trauma response. The trauma responses are typically freeze, fawn, fight, or flight. Typically fall under those 4 categories. So if you notice in this situation, I typically freeze because this has been ingrained throughout my childhood. This is what I had to do to survive. So giving yourself that, celebrating yourself for surviving, you made it through. In this moment, you may be in the same pattern of freezing. Right? Instead of that, I know that humor has been a huge part of that for me, coming out of the freeze trauma response. I'm actually going to take like a lighter view of what I'm in. And what's coming up for me is learning a new language, learning Spanish. Instead of freezing when I don't know something, can I lean into humor? And I notice like when I do that and lean into joy a little bit, even with the person that I'm practicing with, right? And this can be just like a person at the store. Their mood starts to lift too. And when their mood lifts, it's like it gives me permission to not take that so seriously. To come out of the freeze trauma response, realize that I'm not in that environment anymore where I had to freeze. And I can instead invite joy in and humor. So how can seeking out joy, humor, right, counterbalance some of these trauma responses that have been so deeply ingrained for maybe a long time? In realizing that instead, right, leaning into joy, into fun, into things that excite you can be a way to rewire your brain to actually anticipate joy versus anticipate trauma. How can you invite in joy? That part, healing doesn't have to be hard. I love that because sometimes healing can be made to sound like a full-time job. It can't. And then you don't want to do it because it's like, you already have enough stress. And I talk about the workplace so often, right? Now I have to heal instead of reframing it, right, in the sense that it can be joy-filled. It can be a way to reclaim the adventurous parts of yourself, right? All of these parts of ourself that existed before we entered these environments that really tried to strip it out of us intentionally. So if you reframe it as a joy-filled process, could that make it a little bit easier to begin to develop new neural pathways, right? Heal, self-healing practices, and affirm back to yourself that you're worthy of joy, right? Healing doesn't have to be hard, a vibe. Thank you, Lady Ebony Rose. Yeah. Healing doesn't have to be hard. No. Leslie, I'm still scrolling for this link. But if you have the link, please feel free to put it in the chat again so I can link it. So if you'd like to share different things that bring you joy, to begin to, again, like counterbalance these very deeply ingrained trauma responses that we've developed to survive environments. Toxic environments, traumatic environments, oppressive environments, places where our worth was questioned, where our gifts were doubted. How can joy be an antidote to oppression? Come on. Mailed himself from Richmond to Philly. You know what I'm talking about. Yes. And I forgot his name. His name escapes me. If y'all know his name, who Trisha Hersey talks about in The Art of Escape, who mailed himself to freedom, can you put in the chat, please? Because I forgot his name. But yes, that's a level of imagination that we have access to. Things that we are taught are impossible to survive, to overcome. We've proven that wrong throughout history. It's like, maybe you can't imagine it, maybe you can't make it happen, but you're not from the same people I'm from. Okay, yes. Yeah. Henry Brown, thank you. Yes, Henry Brown. Mailed himself to freedom. So it's like we've always demonstrated that. It's like, you can tell me one thing, you can tell me that I'm in bondage, enslaved, but something within me knows that that's not how things are supposed to be. And so, what is the power of tapping into source, whatever you believe in, to get around the messages, the limiting beliefs that are enforced upon us? Because we've seen it demonstrated the power throughout history. Yeah. My joy is my resistance. My joy is my fist. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And shout out to the video on your channel. Yes. My joy is my fist. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so healing doesn't have to be a full-time job. It doesn't have to be a part-time job. It doesn't have to be a job, period. It can be a joy-centered, joy-filled process of coming back into the person you were always meant to be. How joyful is that? Now you're in alignment with who you came here to be. And I think Coach Ilana mentioned this term like your soul contract. What did you enter into Earth, right? Saying that you were going to be, the person that you're going to be, the things that you were going to experience, the lives that you were going to impact. Healing is getting back to that person, that contract that you initially entered into. And why can't that be a joyful process? That's like, isn't that why we're here? To literally align our lives, this life experience, with what we, like the evolution of our spirits. And so healing is getting back all of those parts that you lost, that were buried intentionally over time, and coming back into authentic you. That is joy. Yeah. Yeah. Karaoke gives me joy. I love karaoke. Yes. Trying to sing. And you are singing. You are singing. And I'm sure your voice is beautiful. Yeah. Happy Tuesday, Victoria Crease. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Let me know. But yes, happy Tuesday and welcome. Thank you for joining. Early 2000s R&B makes me happy. Lady Ebony Rose, me too. Me too. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Marissa says, I love thinking about the soul contract and realizing I was born for a time like this. It makes me think very creatively and get excited. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. Realizing that you have been fully equipped for this journey and you have been called here for a reason. Just repeating that to myself as an affirmation over the past few months has been life-changing, right? I have been called here for a reason. Like somebody literally like, we need Marissa, right? For this time in history. And the same for all of us who are in existence right now. There is no coincidence. There was no like, right? It's actually that deep. And because we're often socialized just to be workers, our only value is our labor that we can contribute. It overlooks the depth of the life experience, right? And why we have been called into existence in the first place. And so if you can reframe that and understand that people will try to minimize life as a way to keep control over you. And that can be a point of resistance, right? Realizing that, no, it's not actually just me working. I wasn't called into existence to be a part of the labor force. Right? That can be a real way to begin to reclaim parts of yourself that were buried over time because they didn't fit into the boxes that this society tells us that we have to be in. Right? For such a time as this. You have been called into existence for such a time as this. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And Leslie, please, please put the, if you want to, the link in the chat again so that I can link it, because I can't find it, but I do want to link it. Okay, let's get back to my list. Self-compassion. Another way to rewire your brain, replacing a harsh, critical internal monologue with one that is self-compassionate. Giving yourself grace. Realizing that you've never done this human experience so like before, to our knowledge. Giving yourself grace, right? Being gentle with yourself. Introducing an affirmation practice tied to healing. So this can be Post-it notes. I love Post-it notes. This says, remember what you've accomplished a lot. For those of us who tend to overlook our accomplishments, just go on to the next thing, who are recovering from being overachievers. Having affirmations to yourself, even in the physical form, whether on Post-it notes, right? I've seen people write on their mirrors with like lipstick, if that's helpful for you. But having a tangible representation that you can be compassionate towards yourself, even if no one has done that for you before. Leaning into your power to be the person that you always needed. You can be compassionate towards yourself. You can be gentle towards yourself. And that's really where it comes to like blocking other people with their negative energy, right? Who are trying to criticize you. Literally putting up a mental block, a force field around yourself, and staying rooted in how you talk to yourself and not internalizing how they talk to you. Because often we have picked up other people's negative voices, critical voices, we've internalized them. And so that's the pathway that has been ingrained in our brains. When we make a mistake, now we criticize ourselves because we've internalized that. That's been the pattern of behavior that we've been in, but that doesn't mean that's the pattern of behavior we have to stay in. Now you can rewire your brain. Right? If that happened as a child, now you can rewire your brain as an adult. And so when you make a mistake next time, you know the pathway. Again, if that visualization is helpful, you know the fork in the road. If you go down criticizing yourself, you're going to feel bad. You're not going to want to try again, right? You're going to be repeating these negative messages to yourself over and over again in your brain versus going down the other fork, the other path of the fork in the road. What if I just told myself that I'm human? And these things happen, right? And I make mistakes because I am human. Reclaiming your humanity again from this environment, the society that tries to turn us into robots and make us feel bad for making mistakes when that's literally part of the human experience. How are you supposed to learn if you don't make mistakes? And so can you be the most compassionate person towards yourself in your life? Versus being your worst critic, which so many of us can be your leader, the most compassionate person, the most gentle person towards yourself. And how could that change your brain? Hopefully I'm back. I think I went out for a second, but yes. Yeah. Thank you. Lydia says, I really have to remind myself to invite and expect joy. I started my expat journey. I was going to ask, but I didn't want to put out that. Yes, I started my expat journey on Sunday and quickly realized I'm still holding so much trauma and negativity from the US. I have to work at it. Yeah, it's a process. And thank you for sharing that. Me too. Remind myself daily to invite and expect joy. Yeah, and especially like when you leave, right, the US, that doesn't mean that all that trauma just stays in the physical place that you were in. We've internalized mistreatment, all these messages that we've received that meant to do us harm over the course of our lives. Like, we've internalized that, and often they're just in there, right? No matter where we go. And so being able to uproot that from your mind, realizing that that was never meant to serve you, and that you can create your own internal monologue, that has been helpful for me in healing from the negativity of the US. And understanding the history, that has also been helpful. Yeah, thank you. It's a process. It is a process. Yeah. Yeah, celebrating you. Yeah. Might have missed this, but any book recommendations for learning about the nervous system? The Body Keeps a Score is one I would recommend. I haven't read it myself yet. Let me put it here. The Body Keeps a Score is one that I would recommend. And the one I recommended earlier, The Sugar Jar, it's not necessarily about nervous system healing, but it is about self-healing. So if you are in the process of maybe recovering from being a people pleaser, understanding the roots of that, and then adopting self-healing practices, I would recommend this. This is by Yasmin Cheyenne. The Sugar Jar. Yes. Yeah, congrats, Lydia. Yes. I hope wherever you travel to helps you realize all the wonderful experiences you deserve. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'll say, like, being abroad has really made me rooted in the understanding of how evil so many places that I was in all throughout my life in the US, right? Just lacking humanity. And we see, again, the roots of the settler colony. We see the roots of it. And so, how could it be anything else? With that foundation, right, and understanding that the whole world isn't like that, that's been healing. And being able to be abroad and see people like interact with you on a human level, that's healing. That's healing, yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Danielle Fritz, welcome. Yes, Pause, Rest, Be by Octavia Rahim is good for learning to slow down and rest. Thank you for this. Yes, yes. Lydia says, I'm more overwhelmed. Oh, yeah, than I thought I'd be, but I know I'm on the right track. This community helps so much. Oh, yay. Thank you for sharing the yeah. And it's a process. Something I had to learn, like moving abroad versus traveling abroad. Because I was definitely on it felt like a vacation, trying to pack everything into a short amount of time, realizing that it's like you're moving to a whole different place has been helpful for me. Just affirming that to myself versus feeling like there's so much pressure to do everything, to see everything. It's like, no, you got time. You got time. Yeah. Knowing about the vagus nerve is important to heal too. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Once I find the perfect place in Mexico for me and my family, I'm gone. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mexico it's been healing. It's had its ups and downs, right? But it has been healing being in this country around people who are human. Yes. Okay. Visualization. and be another way to rewire your brain. So imagining yourself in your ideal situation, in your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. Sometimes we'll think that this is kind of silly, right, to envision this, but this is really like, it paves the roadmap to where you're going when you have a clear destination or clear journey, right? To wherever you're going, to wherever you want to be. If you have that in front of you, if you're able to visualize that in your mind, because your imagination is powerful. As we've talked about before, there are so many efforts to try to limit, suppress our imaginations on purpose because of the power that they hold. So can you visualize where you want to be, how you want to be living, how you want to be showing up, how you want your emotional responses to look like, the people that you want to be around? Can you visualize that and actually bring it to life? Right? Creating new neural pathways again that direct you towards that vision versus feeling like you're stuck in a pattern of behavior that is not serving you, that you adopted at one point to survive, but you're creating a new pathway towards your future, right? Future focused versus feeling like you have to be stuck in something that's not serving you. So tapping into the power of your imagination to rewire your brain can be especially powerful. And this is where creativity comes into play, right? Picking back up the things that you might have put down because they didn't make money. Again, being socialized to go straight into the labor force, we're often pressured to put down things that don't make money and focus our energy on getting the job, right? Staying in the job. What about the things that bring you joy? What about the activities that make you feel alive? Can you pick those up? Can you visualize yourself incorporating those into your daily life routine? Right? Visualizing a future version of yourself healing, whatever way that looks like for you. And not healed, because healing is a continuous process versus it being a final endpoint. As long as we're living, we're healing. And what would that visual look like? If you'd like to share in the chat, what would that visual look like for you? In your ideal setting, in your dream life, as the healing version of yourself that is reclaiming the parts that you may have lost along the way, right? And getting back to the authentic you. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Marissa says, I can absolutely understand overwhelm one step at a time. You're making great choices for you and you got this. I love that. Yes. One step at a time. You're making great choices for you and you got this. Yes. Yeah. And celebrating you again, Lydia. Yeah. Yes. Calling in the perfect place for you in Mexico too. Oh, Oaxaca. Yeah. I've been hearing about Oaxaca. Yeah. Did I just hear about Oaxaca too? Someone had moved to Oaxaca. I forgot where I saw it. But yeah. Visualizing used to be hard for me, so I started with just visualizing things like inner peace, self-confidence. Ooh, laughter. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to know the setting, write these detailed things. Like Marissa said, you can like visualize the greater themes in your life that you want to achieve. Laughter, peace, well-being, health, right? And so visualizing them first in the mind brings into present often your reality. That's how powerful the mind is. Which is why rewiring, right, your brain to bring about your ideal circumstances versus the ones that you feel like you're trapped in, you're stuck in, can really help you take action towards creating that dream life. Yeah. Me in the Caribbean, organizing and helping our people build, finally not afraid of stepping into my purpose. Thank you for that. That's an amazing visual. Yeah. Organizing and helping our people build, finally not afraid of stepping into my purpose. Yeah, that last part, I've been working on that. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Celebrating that visual. Yeah. Hope says, I visualize being surrounded by caring and supporting people. I love that. Yeah. 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 I appreciate you sharing that. And like I said, you call into being your life. Because we're often taught that life kind of just happens to us, right? But if you really knew the power that you held within you to bring it into being the way that you want it to look like, right? The things that you want to be present in your life, the themes. Can you visualize that as part of rewiring your brain to bring it into being and acknowledging the power that you have to make that happen? Absolutely. All right, last one. Oh, it's almost been 2 hours. Thank y'all for chatting with me. I didn't realize it had been that long. But yes, the last one, bonus one, safe community. So getting into community, having people reflect back to you that you're amazing, that nothing was ever wrong with you. All of these experiences that we have of being bullied often, being ostracized, right? People taking their trauma out on us and us internalizing those negative voices can really do a lot of damage, right? But being in safe community, being able to adopt new neural pathways that, oh, nothing was ever wrong with me. These gifts that I hid because someone made fun of me in the past, now I'm actually embracing them because I'm in a community where they're celebrated, where people support me, where people uplift me, encourage me, versus what a lot of us have experienced along the way, right? Doubt being put into us, people questioning what we're doing, people gaslighting us, people talking down to us. Being in safe community is really tremendously healing for the brain. Because then you're able to go down a different route. You're able to reflect, have that reflected back to you, that you deserve to be here, right? That you can stand in your power and there are people around you to support you and who believe in you. The power of being in safe community can be tremendously healing. I can't emphasize that enough. To heal from trauma, right? And being a social worker, being trained in group settings, right? Facilitating groups, seeing how powerful that can be when we feel safe enough in a group setting to share what we've been through, as we're doing today. So thank y'all. And have people like affirm that, like, wow, that's amazing, right? Or I also survived that too. And this is how I'm coping or healing. This is how I'm dealing with it. So the power of safe community, right, can be, let me get back to the comments. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay. I appreciate y'all. Yes. Listen, we got all we needed this long chat. We got a lot on our chest. Yeah. That's real. Yeah. Yeah. I was actually thankful you decided to do a live today. Just hearing you speak brought me back to groundedness. Oh, thank you for that, Nate. Yeah. We do have a lot that we're processing. Yeah. Community is a wonderful and renewing resource. It is. It's a renewable resource. It is. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Can you get into safe community like this one? Right? A safe place centering Black women and femmes to heal from what we've experienced, share resources, knowledge with each other, and provide that sense of reflecting back to each other how amazing we are. Because like I said at the beginning, we don't hear that enough. It's actually the opposite. It's actually the criticism that's very loud. And so how can you get into communities where your worth is actually reflected back to you? Lord knows I'm tired of hearing Trump's voice. Me too. Yeah. Ooh. People putting us down to feel better. Hope. Yes. That part. Thank you. Danielle says, oh, yes, this has been so good. Glad I caught you in between work meetings. Yes, thank you for being here. And please subscribe to Danielle Brooks' channel, Refreshing Words. Yes, I've been enjoying her channel. True, I'm so grateful for this chat session. Thank you for being here, Leslyn, as always. Yes, we appreciate you. Thank you for that feedback. I do want to share, if you are interested in purchasing the resources I've created to begin to rewire your brain as a social worker. And part of healing from a toxic job is reclaiming all of that work that I put into that degree. Because it had been a period of me forgetting that I even studied this, right? So I have created resources, including Healing from Childhood Attachment Wounds, self-paced workshop, co-hosted with Angela Kanu, who's a fellow Black woman social worker, which you can purchase on my website, marissaprice.me. If you are interested in having like a tangible work-through guide, ebook with space to write, I did create 5 steps to begin healing from childhood trauma, which you can purchase on my website as well, or at this link. And this really centers the experiences of Black women, which I think is important because we're often not centered in mental health spaces. Things like childhood attachment wounds, these concepts that we see talked about a lot on a larger level, it's not really like directed, or our experiences are not centered. And it's important when you consider things like the history of enslavement and how enslavement contributed to childhood attachment wounds that we're still experiencing today. And so all the resources I create around mental health are really centering our experiences and also incorporating in history and how history has created so many of these things, right? These phenomena that we're experiencing today, they didn't come out of nowhere. Many times these were intentionally created to destroy communities, ties to ancestral lands, practices, customs, beliefs. And we're kind of in the year of reclaiming that, right? If everyone else is going to be speaking loudly about their dreams, which results in the stripping of our rights, then it's time for us to reclaim the knowledge, right, in the past that we still have access to because it lives within us. So that's the perspective I come from in creating mental health resources for centering Black women and femmes. Also, if you are in a toxic job or healing from a toxic job, I did co-host, where's my mouse? There we go. How to Heal from a Toxic Job, which is a replay of a workshop I co-hosted with Dr. Kamani of Lifting as We Climb Consulting on YouTube. And so this workshop walks you through things like racial microaggressions that you may have experienced in the workplace, how to heal from that. Angela Connie was also a guest speaker along with Alicia Gill. And Angela did a fantastic session on your life story and how your life story can inform how you heal from a traumatic job experience. So if you're interested in the replay of that, please click this link here and I'll link in the chat. Also on my website, marissaprice.me. But yes, y'all, I want to thank y'all for being here on this Tuesday. Let me make sure. Okay. Oh, yes. And Marissa, I think we have a call coming up. I'm sorry, I might be a little late. But yes. Well, that's freaking true. Your guys are so freaking amazing. And you are too. Compliment received. Thank you. Yes. And thank y'all so much again for sharing in the chat resources. If you're watching the replay, please feel free to share below ways that you're processing trauma, rewiring your brain with the things that we've shared today. If that can provide inspiration. Again, a lot of these things you may already be doing, but know that they're having a significant impact on your brain, even if you can't see it in this moment. Once you look back and realize if you've implemented these as a practice over time, you will be changed. You will be closer to the version of yourself that's healing, instead of feeling like you're stuck in these patterns of behavior, because you're never stuck. Your brain is always changing, adapting, and evolving as long as you're breathing. Nate says, my resolution is being more intentional about community. We need to be more organized and connected than ever. Hopefully we can help build sustaining system for ourselves. Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Medical, financial, educational, agricultural, one step at a time. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Marissa, already doing your thing on the medical social work. You're appreciated. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, Danielle, a great chat. Have a wonderful day, everyone. You too. You too. Thank you for being here. Sade, thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, take your time. Never any rush. This was great. Thank you for that, Marissa. Yes. Donna, thank you for the session. I enjoyed it. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Lady Ebony Rose, thank you for the live. You're welcome. Yes, y'all. So please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Please like this video if it resonated. And please comment down below if you're healing from any of the things that we talked about today. And yeah, I look forward to coming back with y'all probably next week because I'll be traveling. But yeah, until then, thank y'all so much for being here. Until next time. Bye, y'all.